Imagine planting trees, then getting paid because those trees clean the air. Sounds fake, right? But that is exactly what carbon credits are. Big companies are paying money to reduce pollution, and farmers, tree growers, and environmental projects can benefit from it. Today, I want to explain to you about carbon credits in a very simplest way possible. Stay tuned, subscribe, like, and share uh, this content of environment. Hello, my people. Welcome to another exciting episode of Kang's Ufa Environmental YouTube. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe, hit the like and subscribe button as we engage on matters partaking environment, climate change, forestry, and other perspectives in terms of regenerative agriculture, agroforestry, food forestry, all of the things. So today I was able to identify this idea that I'm bringing to you about carbon credits on the perspective of most people don't know what it is, what they do to you, what how do they how venye inakuja kwa sisi, yani ni aje? So every day cars, factories, big companies, airplanes, cooking na release gas into the air. This gases which is released there is called carbon. One of the biggest gases is called carbon dioxide. I know you know that carbon dioxide, also known as the CO2. Too much carbon in the atmosphere is what causes climate change. Yaani saa zingine unasikianga kuna hota, unasikianga kuna joto mingi, hot temperatures. Mara kidogo kidogo unaona kuna drought. Kidogo kidogo unaona floods zimeanza kuzidi, unashangaa hizi ni nini? These are the carbon. Hizi ni zile carbon na release into the atmosphere kutupitia the cars, the airplanes, the cooking, whatever, the big factories they produce the pollution. The air pollution that is produced in the atmosphere is called the carbon dioxide, the CO2, the chemical formula. So this the release of these gases causes unpredictable predictable rain. Like today, you can just see that like these times, this season, you can realize that there's slow much of too much rain. Sometimes there's too much. There's too much of drought, too much of hot, and you wonder to yourself why. What causes this amount of heat or amount of rain? Is because of the gases that is released into the atmosphere, that the one that we produces, each human being is producing. So that's why the world, yani dunia inajaribu, it tries to reduce the amount of pollution. And how can it do that? How can the world reduce this too much of pollution? So that's why today I'm explaining about the carbon credits. Have you ever heard about carbon credits? I need to hear from you on the comment section. Have you heard about carbon credits? What do you know about carbon credits? I would like us to engage in a conversation. So, a carbon credit is like rewarding a certificate. This is a carbon credit, according to my understanding, is like rewarding a certificate to a person who tries to reduce the pollution. And if you help to remove this amount of carbon into the atmosphere or prevent these types of pollution, you can you can earn from carbon credits. So whenever whenever a person tries to remove or tries to eradicate this carbon from the atmosphere or to prevent pollution, that person earns a carbon credit. That is the what a person earns. So this means that 1 ton of carbon dioxide reduced or removed, one can be able to earn an income. Let's say big companies pollutes. I know you know that big companies they remove they pollute a lot of carbon into the atmosphere. So instead of air pollution, instead of reducing this pollution immediately, these big companies they buy carbon credits from the people, sorry, or from the people or from projects who are helping the environment in order to curb this type of pollution. Example, for a person who is conducting tree planting projects, I know you know most of the people who are they are called NGO. They are conducting a tree planting project. These are the big small companies where the big companies who are removing the who are polluting the atmosphere, they are paying these NGOs. The second is there are people who are conducting the regenerative agriculture. They are considered because they help in reducing the pollution, whereby the chemicals that is mostly used is not used in a regenerative type of agriculture, which we shall discuss on our next episode. These clean cooking stoves, there are these big companies which are ensuring there are these big companies. We are talking about the clean cooking stoves. There are these companies who they are known for producing high quality jikos that cannot use the amount of charcoal or it can't yenye haiwezi tumia hizi charcoal haiwezi tumia makaa. So these companies they are being provided with funds so that they can produce more of the cooking stoves than the one that is producing a lot of smoke. That's one that's called the jikos. There's forest protection projects. So there are projects that protect their forest. So this one that the companies, these big companies, they tend to give these forest protection projects amount of money so that we can protect the environment for them. The other one is the renewable energy projects, the use of solar and the electricity, like the use of biogas and sort of other renewable sources. So in simple, what I can say is the polluters or the big companies pay environment projects so they earn. Now we understand that. What I'm saying is big projects, big companies, they pay for them, they pay for them to be able to solve their problems. Hope tunaelewana. Sometimes people can ask how trees create carbon credits. As in easy carbon credits, how can a tree create these carbon credits? Normally, trees they naturally absorb carbon dioxide from the air through the leaves where they breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen which we breathe. So trees they absorb the carbon dioxide from the air. They store that carbon inside on their trunks, on their branches, on their roots, and the soil. So that is how the trees they store the carbon dioxide. That means forests act like natural carbon banks. So forests they act like natural carbon banks that stores the carbon that is absorbed from the atmosphere. The more healthy trees you grow, the more carbon can be captured. So the more you continue planting trees, the more carbon we are going to suck it from the atmosphere and transport it. The tree is going to suck the carbon from the atmosphere and then suck it inside and captured. So that is how the trees absorb the carbon from the atmosphere. That's why indigenous trees and deforestation projects they are becoming very valuable worldwide because of the importance in protecting environment. So that is basically how trees they create or capture carbon in the atmosphere. The other thing is that I want to share is how people make money. You know, somebody can ask, yes, we know trees. Yes, tunajua miti ina capture carbon, but sisi mimi mwenye napanda miti, je, how can I earn? And tutapataje pesa kutoka kwa these carbon projects? From these carbon projects, the big companies, which they tend to give me money so that I can reduce the amount of pollution, the amount of carbon in the atmosphere, the one that they are producing. So basically, here is what it becomes interesting. Here is what hapa ndo pale inakuwa interesting. Organizations, the big organization, they measure how much your carbon is produced from your trees that you are planted, or your project that can absorb the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. So after verification, after the organization have verified your results, the amount of carbon is produced from your trees, carbon credits, they are then sold to the companies or organization that money can support the farmers, the communities, the conservation groups, and tree nurseries. So these are the after the organization have collected the results from carbon on your trees that is produced. So these are then transported. These results are then transported to the big companies. So the big companies, they release money to the farmers who have planted, organizations, the communities, conservation groups, and the tree nurseries that have the trees. But one thing for sure is that carbon credits are not quick money. Let me repeat that again. Carbon credits are not quick money. You need real trees. You can't say that I have 20,000 trees and yet you have 10 trees. No, it can't work. It can't work like that. So you need real trees, a tree that is proper management, that has been done proper management. For example, pruning must be done, watering, the tree must look healthy, thinning, everything, proper management. These are the management that is needed by the tree as it grows from a seed until it matures. The land records. This means that a place where your trees have been planted must be yours. So you must have a title deed for your farm. The other thing is monitoring. You must monitor your trees, because if you don't monitor, the trees can be destroyed or can be uh, cut down by other people. And long-term commitment. Long-term commitment is whereby the tree that has been conducted and the carbon reserves have been taken to big companies for you to get money. That means that tree cannot be cut down. Hiyo miti haiwezi katwa, because ukikata ukikata hiyo miti, the result that was taken, that was measured, the carbon, it means that itakuwa imepunguka the one that was measured. So it means another tree must be planted back again. So remember, it takes time. It's not a quick money. And the other thing is, Africa, we have a big opportunity in earning from carbon credit and also protecting the environment. Why do I say this? We still have land for restoration. That means we have a big space in Africa where land can be conserved and planted trees. Many communities depend on farming. Remember, in Africa, we are in a third world. Most of countries in Africa, we are in the third world countries. So most people, they depend on farming for them to survive. So Africa is a big opportunity. And trees, they grow well in many regions. Trees, they grow well in many regions. Remember, we have the indigenous trees, exotic trees. So we have most of Africa contain the indigenous trees that do well in Africa. So we have a big opportunity there. Countries like Kenya are already, countries like Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda already, they are becoming important in climate and They are becoming important in reducing climate change and carbon project. This means young people can create opportunities through tree nurseries. So the youths, mostly the youths, the women, the people who are the youths, they can create opportunity like having a tree nursery, environmental education and restoration, agroforestry, and regenerative agriculture. But we must be careful with this deal because not every carbon project is genuine. Why do I say so? Some people promise quick money without real environmental impact. Some people promise quick money without real environmental impact. Why do I say so? Most people they tend to con people about the carbon projects which are not real. So that means that is an environmental impact. Carbon credits only work when trees survive, forests are protected, and communities benefit fairly. Have you understood that? Okay. So let me end this by saying this is that for now you can understand carbon credits in simple English. Trees are no longer just about shade. They are not about just for beautification, not for food, not for food, and not just for natural importance for protecting our soil erosion. No, they are becoming part of our future global economy. The question is, will Kenya, will Africa, will any other country lead this green future? That's a question I'm posing to you. Or what others benefit from it? Will they or will you? If you learn something new, subscribe for more content on environment, forestry, regenerative agriculture, and climate business. That's where I end my video. Let's meet next time. Make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Let's learn about environment, let's learn about climate change.